Are you a leader, manager, entrepreneur, business owner, or knowledge worker? Are you leading people or wondering how to be a better leader in your own life and work? If you are, then you can be experimenting better. Welcome to The Experimental Leader, a podcast that takes a look at the ways leaders are experimenting in their own work. Hosted by Melanie Parrish, we dive into real-life conversations about how people might be using a scientist's mindset and experimenting in their work. Shift your leadership into something that works better. Join us on The Experimental Leader today.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with you today. I've been thinking about my own leadership, and I've been thinking about sort of who's the me that I present to the world as a leader. And that's both visually and sort of in the messaging that we have and in the way that I, as a human being, am open or vulnerable in podcasts and videos and writing with my clients. I sort of think of it as my leadership brand. And I'm not sure what your leadership brand is, but I'm super curious. So I'd love to hear more about what your leadership brand is, how you think about it. What are the pitfalls? Where do you get yourself in trouble? I always find it interesting when I'm socializing with clients. It's fun. It's super fun, but I also hold myself back a little bit. I'm careful, not like careful in the way that I don't say outrageous things, but I think about them before I say them. And I certainly hold an essence of business reality in my social interactions. Today, our guest, I'm super excited about our guest today. Her name is Nicki Krawczyk, and she's the founder of Filthy Rich Writer. And she's also been a copywriter for 15 plus years, working for and with clients including TripAdvisor, Marshalls, Hasbro, Keurig, adidas, and even Harlequin Romance. I am so excited to talk with Nicki. Welcome, Nicki.
Hi there.
Hey, it's great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Well, I want to just dive right in, and I'd love to hear kind of, fall 2021. What are you working on in your business? What are you thinking about? What are you doing as a leader in your role leading your company?
You say fall 2021, and I went, is that next year? Is that last year? It's been a busy year, hasn't it? So our company, our Filthy Rich Writer is one of the brands within our Nicki K Media company. So Filthy Rich Writer, we train people to become professional copywriters, professional marketing and advertising writers. We're ramping up our Fired Up freelance brand, where we teach people to become successful freelancers in any capacity, and planning events for the new year, planning new offerings, all kinds of, you know what it's like to be a business owner. There are always multiple balls in the air, all kinds of things going on. Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
It sounds really exciting. And what about the work that you do as a leader excites you?
Well, you know what? I think there are really two parts of that. On one side, I love the marketing element. I'm a marketer at heart. So I love figuring out how to get across what we're offering and how it's going to benefit our target audience, and so that they understand it and embrace how it will transform their lives. And then on the other half of it, there is that element of the actual transformation of helping people build thriving copywriting careers, of helping people build thriving freelance careers. It's funny, when I started my business 10 years ago, I really kind of thought, all right, well, I'll teach people to become copywriters because people need to know this. Yeah. And it didn't occur to me that what that would actually involve is helping people build careers. And I mean, it sounds silly to say it like that, but there's a difference between, I'm just going to teach people this, and, our students coming back and saying, last year I was on food stamps and my husband and I just bought a house, all because of this. Or I finally found a career that I actually love, or, I was able to be the primary breadwinner in our family for the first time ever, that kind of thing. I'm very lucky, and it's an honor to be in to have a business that actually truly impacts people's lives. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I have a similar experience. Like I feel like my big stake in the ground, or the thing that brings me joy in my career, is helping people love their work. And so we're very aligned in that. It's so surprising when you watch that happen over time. I mean, I don't know why it's surprising, because you kind of hope you'll have impact, but I love when people come back and say, gosh, you said this, and then I did this, and then this happened. And it's a cool path.
Absolutely.
What do you think? How do you choose? Like, how do people know if copywriting's like a cool thing for them? What would they look for in themselves to know if this is something they might be interested in?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a question we get a lot. And, I can, whenever people ask it, the first thing I always say is, I don't know you, so I can't necessarily tell you for sure, but I can tell you some of the commonalities among our students. Our students all have just a general affinity for writing and interest in writing. They're the people who always or I should say, our friends are always asking us to look over their cover letters or look at an email before they send it to a boss to make sure they come across right. So that kind of natural ability to write well. And I think too, something that the people who have that tend to discount it, tend to think because they just naturally are able to do it, that everybody can. And that's very much not true. Most people are not naturally good at writing. And so regardless of what people do with it, it's really important, if you are good at it, to recognize that and to, quite frankly, take a little pride in it. And then beyond that, really, people have to be open to being coached, to learning something new. Copywriting is a totally different kind of writing than any other kind of writing. I personally, as you said, I've been doing this for more than 15, getting real close to 20 years. So I can tell you it's very different, but I love it. It's a great combination of creativity and strategy. But you have to be open to being coached and be open to taking action. We give our students all of the steps, all of the support, everything they need. But it is a matter of saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. Today, I'm a little intimidated by this particular step in the process, but I'm going to do it. And those are really I would say the three things that most of our students have in common, or I should say all of our students have in common, which it sounds basic, but again, you'd be surprised at how many people aren't willing to get out of their comfort zone, aren't willing to try something new, aren't willing to learn something, and I think too, the great thing about copywriting, or one of the many great things about it, is that it's not, if someone gets into it, they start learning it and they go, you know what, maybe I don't want to do this professionally. Maybe I don't want to do this full time. You don't have to do it full time if you don't want to do it. And full time can be full time freelance or full time on staff somewhere. You don't have to do it full time. If you want to, you can take clients part time. Do it as a side gig, which we have plenty of students that do. But even if you don't want to do that, it's still, these skills are so incredibly valuable that you will find a way to use them and make yourself a more marketable professional in any field that you're in.
Well, I want to, before we got on today, we were talking a little bit, and I sort of alluded it in my intro, the idea of sort of a leadership brand and writing, and we all write, we all write emails, we all write, to present ourselves. Any tips for, people who aren't doing copywriting as a living, but who want to produce impactful communications?
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like we were talking about, these are transferable skills.
Yeah.
The I think the biggest mistake that people make when they are writing or when they're communicating is they don't think about the purpose before they sit
Mm,
down to start drafting an email, right? You see that a lot with the meandering emails, or the emails where you kind of don't get to the point, or you get the email and you go, what do you want me to do with this? So the first thing really is to make sure that you're clear on the purpose of that email. First of all, who are you sending it to? I mean, that's kind of an easy one, but why are you sending it? And what do you hope to get out of it?
mhm.
That's the first thing that you need to go into it thinking about. Then as you write it, what you need to focus on is, especially if it's a request in any way, what the recipient is going to get out of the email and whatever action you want them to take. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, that sounds so manipulative. No, it's not at all. You're just highlighting they're going to get something out of taking whatever action it is. So you're just highlighting that, which makes it that much more likely that they will take whatever action you want them to take, whether it's responding to your email, whether it's doing something you need them to do, whether it's any number of things. But keeping your recipient in mind is almost always forgotten, and it's so crucial to effective communication.
Well, I think what you're talking about, it sounds simple. Like, know who you're talking to and know what you want to get out of it. But I think we
Yeah.
do such volume of email. Sometimes we send emails for no reason. Like, I think we can actually stop sending those. There's the got it, which is fine. That's also helpful.
Mhm.
That's a response. But there's also that sort of just owning the impact you want as a leader, and then being very clear about what is that impact? What do you see as a possibility?
Mhm.
And then asking for that possibility. Somebody can say no to you, but
Mhm.
I love that. I love that idea of thinking about what you want to get out of it.
Absolutely. Well, and then too, as you're putting, I think we're kind of focusing on the email example, but so as you're putting content into that email, what needs to be in there in order to get that reaction that you want, or what information do they need, and what doesn't? I mean, because you get a lot of emails that are on both sides of that coin, right? Emails where maybe they ask for something and you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. This is totally out of left field. I don't know what this is. And then or asking you to do something, they don't give you all the information to actually do it, and then you have to send back an email, back and forth. But the other half of the coin, where you're getting too much information, you're getting all of this extraneous stuff that you don't need, and it's a waste of everybody's time, which is really another copywriting principle too, is making sure that everything in a piece of copy is pertinent to that message, not too much and not too little. It has to all make sense within that message and for the purpose of that message.
Well, and I was just thinking about an email my son sent to his guidance counselor, and he literally had 4 points, which all were important to him and all were sort of related. So I think they belonged in one email.
Mhm.
But I know sometimes I guess I'd love your advice on this, but sometimes when my clients are super busy. So sometimes I send them single thought emails, and I might send them 2 of them over a couple of days, because I want them to I want them to not get stuck in the headlights on one thing and not answer the easy thing.
Mhm.
What's your advice on that? You think about email a lot.
Well, I mean, that's another principle right there, right? Is you are thinking about your target audience. So you know that your target audience, that the people you're communicating with, have time to answer one email at a time. That's it. They can give you their thoughts, but it's one email at a time. If they get a list with 8 questions or even 4 questions, it's going to sit in their inbox, or 4 to-dos. It's going to sit in their inbox. Maybe they'll star it, but it's going to sit in their inbox and get pushed further and further down, because that's a big task, whereas one email, they can send you a response quickly. So that's a really great example of thinking about your target audience. But again, another copywriting principle. Whereas for your son, I think it's totally reasonable for him to make 4 requests or ask for 4 things. And I assume it sounds like he's a good communicator, so maybe he bulleted it out to make it as clear as possible.
Yes,
excellent. That's totally reasonable, because it's a different type of audience that these emails are going to. But bullying it out is a really smart way to do it too, because I mean, how many times I'm a business owner and I move quickly. There'll be emails where people ask for something, and then there's some more email, and then they ask for something else, but it's lower in the email. So I miss it completely. I answer the first thing and then I'm on to my next task. So there's even a matter of the order in which you present your information. Your son did it perfectly in that everything he wanted was all together. So to miss something, yes, could someone still miss something? Absolutely. The sad truth that we always tell our copywriting students is nobody's going to read all of your copy. You will. Your client will, your mother will, but nobody else will read it all.
Well, my clients never. No. That's like a dream, right? Like,
yeah. No, I mean, as a copywriter, your client, the person you're writing for, they should read it all.
Will. Yeah.
No, that's the thing, is that nobody reads all of it, which is why it's so important to keep it concise, right? To make it easy, because that's another thing. If somebody opens up an email, it's like 4 long paragraphs. That's another one that gets starred and stays in the inbox until you feel like going through it. But when you make it easy to digest, easy to get through, get the key messages, then it's that much more likely that people will consume it and will not even necessarily read all of it. But if you've made it skimmable, they get the important information and then we'll take action on it.
Well, I have a question for you, because you're sort of, you're an expert in writing, and you manage a team, probably people who prefer written communication. How do you think about sort of meetings, written communication, in-person communication, talking? How do you think about all that in your company, and why?
Well, it's tricky, right? And I don't know that any company has gotten it right yet. I'm always kind of looking to see, because we have Zoom meetings. We have regular Zoom meetings. My business operations manager, my marketing manager, I have one-on-ones with each of them. And then we have a little executive team, we have an executive team meeting at the beginning of the week. And then they meet with their direct reports. And so we do one-on-one meetings, and then we'll do meetings for project kickoffs and that kind of thing. But obviously there's communication in between that. So we use our project management system a lot. We use Asana a lot. But then there's still email and Slack, and both of which are a challenge for me personally, because if email is good because I can leave it and check it twice a day, as I'm trying to be better about doing. But Slack is a big challenge for me, because it's important that, people have questions for me, they be able to get answers to those questions, but it's very disruptive. If I'm trying to get through a project, if I'm, who knows what, be doing 10 different things, 20 different things every single day. But if I'm trying to get through something and a Slack notification pings, I can think, I can go, all right, I'm going to deal with that later, but it's still here in the back of my mind as an open loop, which distracts me from what I'm doing. So, and then I found too, I could turn off the notifications, but then I forget to turn the notifications back on. So I wouldn't say that I necessarily have a solution for any of that. I do think within an organization, it has to be a mix of all of that, those types of communication. But I think there need to be parameters. For example, I wouldn't send a Slack if I have a long request that needs some context with it. That's going to go in an email. And I try not to send Slacks if it's not something that needs to be done or needs to be dealt with on a within the next couple of hours or something like that. That can go to an email. If it's not something that needs to be done immediately or within the next couple of hours, that can go to an email. But it's tricky, because it can be tempting to want to go, I just want to send this out real quick while I'm thinking of it. But it's, then it's you putting something else on somebody else. It's a challenge. I think boundaries are very important for all of us, but especially as professionals and as business owners.
We actually have a no email policy in the organization. So we only use Slack and Trello, which is Trello and Asana are so similar. But
yeah, they are.
But I mean, that doesn't just internally. We just don't communicate internally, mostly because of that problem that you were talking about. I become the bottleneck with email, whereas Slack I see as like a clear request and I will follow up, but it's all just flow. It's interesting just to think about how we're all just trying to find our own flow as leaders, as an organization. And I just found that we had so many different email threads, and then people are CC'd, and with Slack, you can figure out who should be on a purpose, and then you can have a thread for that. So I think it's interesting that you guys are using kind of the same things we are. Maybe everybody is using exactly that, some sort of project management plus Slack plus email.
I was at a mastermind meeting a couple of weeks ago, and a woman that I know was talking about, taking her business to the next level and all this, as we all are perpetually talking about that. And, she's doing quite well for herself, but she has yet to implement a project management tool. And we all went, oh my God. I mean, the idea of trying to execute anything without a project management tool nowadays just gives me heart palpitations. Because then also our, Asana, that has taken the place of a lot of email chains.
That's right. That's
all within there, and it's all within a project. So yeah.
Well, and I have one team member who came with Basecamp too. And so we use a little Basecamp for like the big picture organizing of her work, because Trello, Asana have some limitations too. And moving files around Basecamp is better. I mean, it's just interesting how, you can have your tech stack just grows. I don't know if that's true for you, but it is for us.
Oh, it absolutely is. Because we use a scheduling, or we use a task scheduler on top of Asana. It's called Flowsana. I'm my ops manager, or our ops manager. But to schedule out things automatically, but there's still, and you don't know the limitations until you get into the technology and you go, I wish I could do this.
Yeah, it's right. And I think all of that is really interesting. I'm curious, what do you do for self-care for yourself as a leader?
That is a great question. I love working out. My Peloton is my best friend. I used to, in another lifetime, I used to teach group exercise, used to be a personal trainer and teach group exercise in my early 20s. And so it's kind of nice to hop on a bike and enjoy that too. But it's something that's quite transparently, that's something that I find to be a challenge in the evenings, to find a way to log off, because there's always more work to do, right? Whenever I go, I love my parents so much, but whenever I go visit them, maybe I'll close my computer, I'll get up from my computer, and she'll say, "Oh, are you done?" And I go, "It's never done. I will never be done." So I do find it a challenge in the evening to log off, but then also to find activities in the evening that energize me, or because it's so easy to sit down and just turn on Netflix and go have some dinner and then go upstairs, read a book, go to bed. And that's definitely something that especially as we go into winter and I'm stuck in this house living in Massachusetts, that's definitely something I'll be focusing a little bit more on.
And I know, Canada was probably more locked down than the US, and I spent some time in the US during the last 20 months, but I feel like we did that thing where we just sat and watched Netflix because we weren't going anywhere. We weren't doing anything. And it's hard to shake that because it's easy and we're tired. I think and I think going into this winter is hard. I'm looking forward to spring, which it might be a little early.
Oh, I hate to break it to you.
I know. What burns you out?
What burns me out? I think trying to do too much at the same time. Bless our business operations manager, because she is the one who takes our projects and breaks it all down into the pieces and the steps and makes it make sense. We were just planning out our Q1 and we're going through all the stuff we want to do. And I looked at her, I said, Caitlin, can we do all of this? And then she said, yes, we can do all of this. I'm going to go through and schedule it out. We can do it. But I tend to try to take big bites of projects and get things done all at once. The batching that everyone recommends, like, record all of your podcasts in one day, or record all of your content for this, or write all of this. I can't do that. I try to do it, and sometimes I'll get on a roll and then just try to push myself past the point where I should stop. And that doing too much of the same thing I find it very tedious, even if it's stuff that's important, stuff that needs to be done. And then it makes me go, I don't like this. When it's all stuff I like to do, I just can't do it, massive amounts of it at the same time.
I think that's really interesting. We went live on our podcast in September, and I have to say I'm enjoying it much more than, batching, doing a bunch of interviews in one day. Because by the end, I was kind of like, I feel like I've asked those questions, and I really treasure the connection that I get talking to other leaders, like the freedom to just be able to ask you whatever I want. Like that's, you're running a highly successful company. I love just being able to sit and have a conversation and hear what works for you and what doesn't. And it's rejuvenating, but you're right. If I do 3 of them or 4 of them in a day, I lose that. I met a guy one time who did 8 or 10 of them in a day. And I just thought, why? Why is that the highest good for you?
Yeah, I mean, if that works for him, awesome. It does not work for me. I mean, we always try to be ahead on all of our content. So I think we're like 2 or 3 months ahead with our podcast schedule. But we record every Friday. And yes, we're ahead. So sometimes if we're like, you're traveling or I'm traveling or whatever, we can skip a Friday. But yeah, I think that's where the magic starts to die for me. I love everything that is involved in our business. I love coaching our students. I love, we did a Facebook Live with our students this morning, and I love coaching our students. I love answering questions. I love teaching new things. I love creating new content for them. I love podcast episodes. I love coming up with ideas for other areas of the business. But if I try to do any of those for 4, 6, 8 hours or multiple days, it's not fun anymore. Then that's when I start to burn out and go, I can't do this. And that's, you can't be a leader, and you can't be an effective leader when you're starting to get into that, I don't like this anymore place, because as a leader, you don't have the luxury of not liking it, or you don't have the luxury of complaining to anyone, at least not within your organization. You know what I mean? It's not, complain to your friends, complain to your significant others, or complain, but your team deserves to see the best version of you. I mean, which is not to say that you lie. You certainly, if you're like, you know what, guys, I'm having a rough day, can we reschedule this for tomorrow? Does this mess anything up if we reschedule this for tomorrow? That's totally reasonable. But, your part of your job a big part of our job as leaders is to support the people underneath us, and to make their jobs, make it easier for them to do their jobs. And when they're having tough days, being the person who comes up with solutions and going, okay, sounds like you're all right. You know what? It sounds like you're struggling with this a little bit. Let's see if we can figure out a better way to do this. Or even sometimes saying, hey, you know what? Why don't you take half of tomorrow, take tomorrow off? You've been working really hard. We're ahead. Take tomorrow off. But, as the leader, I mean, yes, you can certainly assign yourself days off, but your team deserves you at your best, or as close to your best as you can be on a regular basis. And when you let yourself burn out, when you know what burnout comes from, and when you let yourself burn out, you can't be the best leader that you need to be.
I think there's so much wisdom in what you just said. Thank you for that. Where can people find you, Nicki?
Oh my gosh, all over. No. Well, if people are interested in copywriting, kind of thinking maybe that's something I want to look into, you can find us at Filthy Rich Writer, online, on social, all that stuff, and at freecopywritingtraining.com. If people are interested in going freelance, if they've been a leader for a while and now they go, no, I want to be a consultant, pop over to Fired Up Freelance, and then freefreelancetraining.com also works as well. But we're around. We're all over. So look for us, follow us, connect with us.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been such a pleasure to get to meet you and get to know you a little bit.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that was just such a compelling interview. Nicki's so interesting. I'm left really pondering this idea of whether or not leaders can have bad days. I think one of the things that we bring to organizations as leaders is that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed energy, not all the time, and not in a cloying way, and not in a fake way. There's some authenticity around it all. But I do think being able to walk past some of the bullshit and just be in the possible, like the positive and the possible, and to hold space for that for our staff is something that we can do really powerfully as leaders. I'm really curious as to where you think you cross that line, where your authenticity steps a little too much into whining, or where you actually do a great job of holding that positivity, of being solutions oriented, of walking past the trouble, and sort of holding a beacon for your staff. It's been great being here with you today. Go experiment.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Experimental Leader. We hope you have found value in today's episode because we're dedicated to helping you become the experimental leader you want to be. To access the show notes or learn more about working with Melanie, visit melanieparish.com. Go experiment.